You could just really bond over that music. For one thing, I suppose, like, I have been talking to people a little bit about you, and I've been mentioning you on my show because you've been such a big influence in me getting onto any genre of music and appreciating any music.
I always love the clarity of the music, and if it can move me while make me feel like I'm somewhere else or immersed in the music to where I can hear every cymbal and every low tone, it just felt good.
If you found yourself on the street and you had $1 and you hadn't eaten for 6 months and it was raining every single day, you would still find some way to get the absolute best headphones and stereo system that you could possibly have because you want your music to be at the utmost quality that it possibly could. This is one of the reasons I want to bring you into this community, because you would hold it at a standard, right? If it was crap, you'd be like, man, I need to get the best out of this. Hey everybody, welcome to AiDIY. I'm the AI music guy. My website's aidiy.tech. You're probably seeing me here on YouTube. I can guarantee it because that's the only place it's going to be showing as far as I know. I want to introduce you to my buddy Hedgehog. John Marcados is his name, but he'll always forever be known as Hedgehog. It actually feels weird to call him by his name. The reason I'm bringing him on here is because Hedgehog has been the person who's brought me in to music beyond what my comfort zone was. We went to high school together. I think maybe even primary school. Maybe he was in year 6. I don't know. That's besides the story. Uh, I grew up like in high school. I just wanted to listen to Poison and Skid Row and Motley Crue and all that. And Hedgehog was always good about that, but always said, well, how about this? And some electronica music, some, I don't know, you call it house or trance or whatever the hell John had me listening to back then. And I was like, I'm not going to listen to that shit. It's not rock and roll. But Hedgehog always brought me to reality. Besides that, like in high school, I was part of like the band. So I played with trumpet. I was in chorus. I tried to be in school plays, marching band and stuff like that. So I always had sort of a touch on it. But after high school, Hedgehog, we'd go to bands. We went to Black Crowes twice. We've seen Aerosmith. We'd go and seek out local concert bands, either at high school bands or other, or we'd go to shows. I think maybe we possibly even went to see Cats or something together. I don't know. But we always used to try to go around and go to whatever sort of music we could get our hands on, especially concert bands like with brass, because I was sort of back in that. And he's very much my introduction into ambient music. We'd sit there in his tent, in his blue tent, back in the day, and just listen to Hearts of Space, which is ambient space music. We just called it space music, and watch the stars and talk stuff.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed listening to different music and whatnot, and I had a background of parents listening to Led Zeppelin, and
Let me
it
just get
got
your parent. I'm going to say, because your dad, your parents, Roger and Jane. I've never directly said this, but they're hippies, aren't they? I don't think
yeah.
they identify as, but yeah, they're hippies.
No, pretty much. They went to concerts, like 3 or 4 day concerts for like $10. So they were a part of that genre. Yeah, definitely. But
Yeah.
they listen to a lot. I mean, my my grandparents, who I lived with for a few years, my grandfather was brought up with um, listening to opera, a guy singing, and I wasn't interested in that. My grandmother started to go from jazz to rock and roll, and I had an aunt who lived with us for a while, and she listened to country western. Now, I like music a lot, but then
Is
there's
that
too much.
Darlene? Is that your aunt Darlene,
Yes,
was it? Yeah, yeah.
my aunt Darlene, and she listened to a lot of country western, but then she started to go and listen to rock and roll, and so my family was brought up around different kinds of music. So I kind of veered towards new stuff that I haven't heard over the years of growing up. And that's one thing that caught my eye was like techno music and ambient music and whatnot. So I just loved it. Was different than anything else I've ever listened to.
Yeah. You know what I like is even now, like I'll take a trip to the US to visit my parents, and I always if at all possible, try to stop by and spend time with you. And like a lot of what we do is either revolving around me introducing you to some sci-fi that I've basically gotten onto, or most likely we'll just chill and listen to like that last one you had, some live thing that you put me onto YouTube or whatever. That was awesome. I don't remember what that is. You could tell me after, maybe I'll put it in the link. But it was just so good. And we've always just done that. Now, the reason I sort of want to introduce you to the group, and like I said, you can either do this or not do this, but I'm going to be running an ambient only segment that I'll be releasing probably on the weekends. It'll be an hour or two show or something like that. And you're not in the AI music space at all, are you? Like you haven't touched any AI music tools or whatever.
No, I have not been
No,
introduced to anything.
no. But for at least 40 years, you've been deep into Hearts of Space, which is what we used to both be on. I just want to set the scene, right? Because your
Okay.
parents, I'm going to say hippies. Like I said, Roger doesn't identify as hippie. I think I've called him that before, but in my mind, like he grew up in that era. He listened to Led Zeppelin. He listened to ambient and stuff. So what we used to do, me and Hedgehog used to do, right? Like in America, the summer vacations from like June to I guess the end of August or whatever, and it's warm. It's in Massachusetts. It's very green and lush. We're up in the mountains in Western Mass, and Hedgehog used to for the summertime move out of his parents' house and onto the platform on the property in the middle of the forest and put his blue tent up. It was a good sized tent. Have his bed in there, have his stereo. We'd have black lights in there, and we just chill out and just listen to this music all night. And we would just talk, and we won't talk about what else we did. Actually, now I got to say because we weren't getting with each other, we would listen. We would smoke cigarettes that would enhance our mood, which is okay. We can talk about that now because it's in the 2020s and that's fine in Massachusetts, right? But also
Right.
like as the weekend would start, maybe about 40 feet away from that tent, there's a fire every Friday night or Saturday night. There'd be a little bit of a bonfire and the entire family would be there. I'd pull up in my 250 four-stroke Honda motorcycle at night, and we sit around that fire and we just talk. And the Hearts of Space would be playing, or there'd be Led Zeppelin playing all night. And I mean, you could just really bond over that music. And the reason I wanted to that it was sort of for one thing, I suppose like I have been talking to people a little bit about you, and I've been mentioning you on my show because you've been such a big influence in me getting onto any genre of music and appreciating any music, but also because I want to run this ambient thing, and I'm hoping that you'll sort of be part of that, at least in the background, filtering it out and having the conversations with people. And I sort of want to, not that you have to, you don't have to, I'm going to do it anyway, but I want people to know how special you are as far as like how you influence me with music.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Matt. And it was such a great um, time that we had together where we could just, sit by a fire and just relax and talk and just have conversations. You don't find that nowadays. And that's the sort of things that I like, I don't get to do often. And I think back then, we used to just chill out and just relax. And I loved it where, we could just fall asleep to the ambient music. And there wasn't a lot of it out there at the time but I searched it out and I brought the best ones. I mean, back then I used to go searching for that kind of music in some of the malls through their CD racks. I'd be listening to a few tracks and then figure out whether they're good or not, and then buy the CD. So it's truly now an awesome revolution where it comes. There's a lot of ambient music out there, and you just don't know what's going to be good or not because I've fallen asleep to some, and I'd be woken up by the
The voice.
commentator.
Yeah,
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 and I'd be like, "Oh man, I was just having a nice, smooth,
yeah,
dream
yeah.
about
That would
something."
always
But
get me. That would always get me. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah, yeah. But I
Yeah, well,
really, really,
that's the thing that when we do it, we're not going to do an outro with a voice because, yeah, you can get very lost in it. Then all of a sudden, I hope you enjoyed that. That was a great Hearts of
Yeah.
Space. I go, geez. But yeah, like you talk about some artists, like there's even some now, like since Hearts of Space was sort of out and we did that. Now maybe 5 6 years ago, I used to listen to this guy from Holland. I think I introduced you to that. It actually felt good to introduce you to one
Yes.
called Space Music. He's in now the ambient zone, but this guy TC in Holland, and I sort of got onto there's some regulars, and this is one of the reasons I want to do my own segment, because AI music is going to bring people doing their own thing and new stuff. Like you have like David Helpling, and I listened to him to death, man. Whenever now it's like it's not relaxing. It's like I heard it. Like ambient stuff, every once in a while, you just want to hear something new and surprising. You got like Astronaut Apes or Astro Pilot, which I love these guys, but I want to hear new. Like I want to introduce ambient artists that are in the AI space because they can do stuff. Actually, yeah, and that's what I want to. That's what I want to sort of do in that space. Now, you mentioned that you don't get to go out and do stuff like that very much. Look, I very much want to get what sort of happened to you a few years ago and why you're not sort of getting about.
Yeah, yeah, I can give you background. Basically, I was in a car accident and I became paralyzed from pretty much the chest down, and I can only do so much like we used to. I have to modify my environment to be able to sit by a fire, or I do have access to the same type of land, but it's a little bit a lot. It's harder. There's a lot more barriers to be able to do that now. So I mainly stick indoors where I have that accessibility of even my stereo, where I have some surround sound. Where I'm pretty happy with the new stuff that has been generated 5.1, or even the Atmos surround sounds. They bring me back into when I'm chilling out and by a fire. So
Yeah.
I'll even actually decide to put a fireplace on the big screen just to remind me of the old times.
Well, to just be careful how far you go, because I know you're sort of an apartment complex. So don't go actually literally setting any fires while you're
No, no,
there.
no. Thanks for that
Yeah,
tip.
at least put some safety measures in place, like a chimney or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
because it wouldn't be quite as relaxing. I don't think if your place well, you could try. Like y'all should try new things, I guess. So this is one of the reasons. Like what you're saying there is one of the reasons I'd like to have you for this too, because like we grew up in a town you wouldn't call it like rich, right? Like we had our things and we
Right.
enjoyed the shit out of our things, but this is what I've always known about you. If you um let's say back in your early 20s or whatever, no, in any part of your life, if you found yourself on the street and you had $1 and you hadn't eaten for 6 months and it was raining every single day, you would still find some way to get the absolute best headphones and stereo system that you could possibly have, because you want your music to be at the utmost quality that it possibly could. And this is why this is one of the reasons I want to bring you into this community, because you would hold it at a standard, right? If it was crap, you'd be like, man, I need to get the best out of this, either with a better stereo or you'd put advice or you'd say that. But I know that you have an ear when it comes to the best way to get quality out of music, and you won't listen to it otherwise.
Yeah, you're right. And that's something that always I always love the clarity of the music, and if it can move me while being able to make me feel like I'm somewhere else, or immersed in the music to where I can hear every cymbal and every low tone, it just felt good to, and obviously I want to share the experience. I've always been that way.
Yeah, no, I definitely have, and like I said, I was always in a pathway to be in music, because like I said, I was in the high school band and marching band, and I actually represented the school a couple times, like for state, and then because of that, like being in the band, I guess introduced me to a lot of stuff like Andrew Lloyd Webber and all that. Like so my music love has always been there, but like I needed to have a friend to basically throw other stuff at me because still outwardly, because I was a very awkward kid. I was like would reject. I just want to like the cool stuff so people think I'm cool. Right? I only want to like Motley Crue and Skid Row and
Yeah.
but you always did that and like I said, you always had an ear for quality. It's funny because like when I tried to do that, I remember I went out and got like a Blaupunkt or something stereo and I put some speakers and we could never figure out how to get the whistling. Like I'd put out if you step on the gas pedal, the whistling would get louder. We never figured that out. That's going to be a mystery for the rest of my life. Now you have YouTube and stuff, we could fix that, but I have no idea. Maybe have a look at that because that's going to puzzle me for the rest of my life.
I think if I remember correctly, now I could probably have fixed it.
Yeah,
And it was because of your alternator. It was giving out a whining noise, and that nowadays they've been able to suppress those type of noises in the vehicles. But I mean, yeah, I. It's great to actually be able to use some of the tools to be able to make the sounds that you want and be able to get rid of the sounds are not pleasing.
yeah.
And with AI and your tools, I know that you can come up with some very great
We
music.
could do some ambient stuff together. Like I don't know if you listen to my most. I don't know if you listen to my music stuff on Praise Be Vinyl. I probably sent you a couple, or whatever. But here's another thing, like I want for you too, because I think once you get into it, you'll love it. Is using some of the AI tools to make songs. Like specifically, look, there's two of them that two major ones. There's a third one, Refusion, but the jury's out on that one for a lot of different reasons. But Suno and Udio, right? I'm mostly doing Sunio because you can get more complete songs from start to finish, and then you got to do a little bit of work to clean them up. I think you'd be more of an Udio kind of guy, unless you get really frustrated. Because I can't do Udio because I get frustrated. But initially, the sound in Udio, the straight from the start is clearer. But you can only do it in like 30-second segments, and you got to build on them and stuff. That might I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how you respond to using those tools.
Okay, I definitely would take that, or I might give those a shot because I've never been. You're introducing me to a new uh, area that I've never been in. So
Yeah. Well, this is what surprised me because you've always been so music focused around that. But either way, like I said, like I want to introduce you to the community so they know who you are because
okay,
well, I want you to because I want people to know where I've like you've influenced me, and I want to give this back to you, this sort of space to get to know people in that community, and like I said with the ambient stuff and electronic stuff, like I've seen it out there. Like I've seen it in some of the Facebook groups of people pumping it out there. I want to start reaching out directly to those. My segments have been to highlight a short segment of people's music and then have people go to their channels to leave comments. I want to do like complete shows where I'm playing a complete ambient song. I'm happy to do the recordings of that, but I want you to be in the background talking. Like I said, you don't have to be, but I definitely think it's of value for people to know you are because I do talk about you. Like when I'm having conversations with people, and I'll be like, oh, this reminds me of the time like me and Hedgehog did this, or and by the way, there's not everything we can talk about that me and Hedgehog did. Would be appropriate to talk about. We got up to all kinds of shenanigans in our teens and early 20s.
yep,
Mostly the shenanigans were yours, and I was just an innocent observer. But
yeah, okay. You're the honest one, right?
yeah, actually, that's one thing is like I've always learned to be honest from Hedgehog. Like he always said, I don't like to be a liar. He would just incriminate the hell out of himself sometimes. Not that he never did anything incriminating, but just to be honest, like, I can't believe you're open about that. But very, very influential in my life for that sort of stuff.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So what are some of the things you're doing now?
Well, right now, I'm not. not doing a lot. I'm just recovering from a major injury, and it's kind of set me back a little bit. Um, I do have um, a online business that I had been working on, but I had to put a pause on it since my injury. So it's been quite some time. At least it'll be almost a year in August. So it's been quite a year trying to take care of my body again since
Yeah,
I've been in this chair.
yeah, yeah. Just so when you said about this chair, it reminded me of that towing story you told me about when your chair had broken down on the side of the road a few years ago, and your dad. this is this
Uh,
is the kind of stuff. This is the kind of
yeah,
shenanigans that still happens in the hometown where we came from. Just I know it's not relevant to music, but now that I've started it, go ahead, tell us that story about your chair being towed.
yeah. Well, I have a long road, and it's mainly downhill from my house, and I
So your dad's
started
house,
to.
your dad's house, though,
Yeah,
right? Like,
my
yeah.
dad's house, and I uh, I started to run out of battery life on my power
This
chair
is a
on the
small
way.
country town back road as well in the mountains. Just to
Yeah,
make that clear, there's not
it
a
was
lot of
about.
houses. It's very narrow road. It's paved.
Yeah. It's about 2 miles from where I was and back to my parents' house, and I have a cell phone that I keep on me at all times, and I had to call my father to somehow get me back home. Now I was thinking that I was going to be able
So,
to, you know,
just for that, my instincts say this is 50%. Like, because I know you and your dad, 50% chance this is going to go sideways. But go ahead. For just I don't
yeah,
just pretend I don't know the rest of the story. My
okay.
gut says this could go wrong. But go ahead.
So I'm thinking, well, I can slide my butt into the front seat of the vehicle, and that way we can figure out how to get the wheelchair in. And I didn't have a wheelchair van at the time. My father had a van, but I was thinking maybe he would bring some planks or whatever, and he'd be able to push it up into the van. No, he didn't bring anything but a chain. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what the heck are we gonna do? I figured maybe he was going to chain it up to the back of the truck and go slow and bring it,
Yeah.
that way. No, he
Mm.
decides to push it with the vehicle, chain it to the front of the vehicle, and it kept on falling over and him almost running it over by the time we got it home. So I was like, I need the freaking chair. You can't destroy it. I won't be able to ever get into this one if it gets well. We luckily didn't do as much damage as it
But
could have
some.
been,
But
but
some.
there was quite a bit, and I
Yeah.
was grateful that I got home in one piece. But I wish my wheelchair had that
Yeah.
same uh,
So this
opportunity.
is how
So,
we grew up. This is how we grew up. Multiply that
yep.
story by 100, and those are that's us growing up in up in probably to our early 20s. So yeah. So you as Hedgehog, like I said, I want to bring you into the community. I want to introduce you to the Facebook community. I want to get you using some of these tools, and I'm excited to see what you're going to create. Like selfishly, I'd like to see if like what's like I've seen people get a lot of joy out of doing this stuff, and selfishly, I want to see you get some of the joy out of it. I want to see what sort of stuff you come up with. Initially, it might not be great. Like you got to play with the tools a little bit. Watch all my videos, by the way, and you'll see a whole bunch of cool tools and
Okay.
ways and tips and all that stuff. But I want to see what you come up with. But I definitely want you to be part of that ambient, atmospheric sort of podcast. Like I said, I'll do the filming. If you're not, that's fine. I still want you part of the community. We'll see how it goes. But like I said, I really just wanted to touch base. I want to see you in that context again. I want to give this gift of music back to you, which I know, um, like I know you well enough. If you've got time, like I don't want to. Look, last time I went there, I know I sort of sprung because I don't get to visit the States very much. I sort of showed up at your house and you were so out of it because you had just come out of the hospital. You didn't, I mentioned it a few months later, you didn't even remember being there.
No.
But so I know things are a little bit tougher for you, so I don't want to force anything on you, but I'd very much like you to try these because I think you would gain benefit out of it. There's a lot of joy, and there's a lot of joy in the community. At a minimal, that if you want to do the ambient thing, that's great. I'm going to call it like ambient night zone with space music, hedgehog, happy hour, joy time, good vibe thing that we do. That'll be the official
Okay.
name. I don't know. We'll maybe try to add a couple more words on there to really drive it home. It'd be cool if you did that, but at the very minimum, I'd like to introduce you to these tools, see how you grow in the community. If you have time for that, if you don't, like I love you anyway, but we'll see how we
Thanks.
go.
You
Yeah,
ditto.
yeah,
Okay.
cool. So this is Hedgehog. I haven't done a plant in the community before. Mostly they come up, but Hedgehog's very much a plant. But he's the plant where you're like it's a good plant, and we'll see that. We'll see how it grows. Cool. Hedgehog,
Okay.
thanks for joining. I didn't want to be too long. I just want to introduce you to let people know why you're here. Hopefully we can sort of do some work together. And yeah,
Okay.
thanks, Hedgehog.
Sounds good.